Apple just wrapped up WWDC 2025. No new hardware this time, but the amount of software updates they packed in, honestly it might be the most comprehensive WWDC in years. The keynote opened with some funny moments. Craig Federighi's hair after the F1 helmet bit was ridiculous in the best way. And the filming location, Apple Park with that rainbow stage and the all-glass backdrop, looked almost fake, except you know how much effort they put into production. Let's start with Apple Intelligence. I've barely used it since last year, so I didn't expect much, but this version is actually functional. Everything is running on device, which is a big deal for privacy and responsiveness. They showed it working across apps like AllTrails and Kahoot, summarizing, generating content, even holding your place on a call with Hold Assist. It's integrated deeply with messages, photos, and FaceTime. Live captions during FaceTime calls feel especially useful, not as a novelty, but as something people actually use. Same with live translation and messages. This looks like the version of Apple Intelligence they wanted to release last year. It finally feels usable. iOS 26 has a major redesign. It borrows a lot from Vision OS, layered visuals, floating elements, and this new liquid glass effect. It's not a complete overhaul like iOS 7 was, but it's definitely a big step forward. The interface is cleaner, buttons are more context aware, getting out of the way when not needed. The lock screen adapts to your photo, adjusting the clock and notifications dynamically without covering key parts of the image. It also brings some overdue functionality. Unknown senders in a separate messages tab, improved photos app navigation, and real-time order tracking in Wallet. Call screening and hold assist being features Android has had for a while, but Apple's implementation feels a bit more thoughtful. iOS 26 feels intentional. The design, the new features, the performance demands, it's clear they're optimizing for the latest hardware, which means older devices may get left behind. I like that they're still naming macOS releases after California landmarks. Tahoe fits. This update brings clarity to the interface. The menu bar is now transparent, which is subtle, but actually makes your workspace feel more open. Spotlight is where the biggest changes are. You can now use it to perform actions inside apps, search clipboard history, and even trigger shortcuts. It's no longer just a file finder. The phone app now exists on Mac, which should have happened years ago. FaceTime was never a great way to place regular calls. And speaking of shortcuts, I haven't used them much in the past, but the way they're integrated now, across platforms, into Spotlight, even powering some Apple Intelligence tasks, it might be time to take a closer look. tvOS got a quick update. The new visual effects look good on the big screen, and more original content is on the way. I'm mostly just glad they finally added multiple user profiles. Should have been there from the start. WatchOS didn't get a lot of stage time either, but the addition of Workout Buddy stood out. It uses Apple Intelligence to give you short, personalized feedback during workouts. Limited to English and specific workouts at launch, but interesting direction. I don't wear an Apple Watch, I don't like anything on my wrists, but I can see the appeal. It has matured into a serious health and fitness tool. iPadOS continues to blur the line between tablet and laptop. The new windowing system is more flexible. Apps can now float, resize, and snap with flick gestures. You can also customize icon sizes and put folders directly in the dock. The new menu bar gives you faster access to advanced functions in certain apps, which makes the iPad feel less like a giant iPhone. The preview app is now native to iPad, so working with PDFs is easier. You can also route audio inputs and outputs manually, finally, and stop recordings using AirPods. That's great for content creators or remote workers. Apple's trying to make the iPad a more serious productivity tool, and this update feels like a real step forward. Vision OS got a smaller section, but the updates are meaningful. Widgets now stay in place in your physical space, even after you restart. It also remembers app placement across sessions. They added great support for video footage from GoPros, Insta360 cameras, as well as Canon cameras. They also added support for accessories from PlayStation as well as Logitech in certain cases. And spatial browsing actually looks useful. It's not something you can replicate on a 2D screen. The new AI-powered personas also look a lot more natural than before. It's not perfect, but it's moving in the right direction. Developers got a few upgrades. Icon Composer makes it easier to design app icons in line with the new Liquid Glass theme, and Xcode now includes AI code tools, likely based on large language models like ChatGPT. This won't replace human developers, but it's definitely changing the learning curve. If you're building something small or just getting started, it's now easier than ever to write, test, and debug code. Also, the developer betas are out now, public betas come in July, and the official releases land this fall. This year's WWDC was completely software focused, and that makes sense. Between iOS, iPadOS, macOS, VisionOS, and Apple Intelligence, there was more than enough to cover. No hardware announcements. What stood out to me was how unified everything is starting to feel. There's a clear design language, consistent features, and shared functionality between devices. It also feels like Apple finally has a coherent vision for AI. Not just we added AI, but here's where it fits, here's how it helps, and here's why it runs locally. There's a lot to explore. I'll probably need to go back and rewatch parts of the keynote just to absorb all the changes. If you're trying out the betas or have thoughts on anything we covered, drop a comment. I'd love to hear what you're most excited about.